Ask the Podcast Coach for November 27th, 2021.
Let's get ready to podcast.
I'm confused. Do I say the year? That sounds weird.
I think so.
I don't know, but hey, it's Saturday. It's that music. It's time for Ask the Podcast Coach, where you get your podcast questions answered live. I'm Dave Jackson from the School of Podcasting.com, and joining me right over there, no, it's not Mork. We'll talk about that in a second. See, when he does that, yeah, it looks like he's in a Mork suit. It's the one and only Jim Collison from theaverageguy.tv. Jim, how's it going, buddy?
Greetings, Dave. Happy Saturday morning to you. Always good to be with you. Today is actually like Nobel Prize Day for folks. So today in I think 1895, Alfred Nobel passed away and his will established the Nobel Prize, which has now become, I don't think when he started this, he thought it'd be a big deal, but as he passed away, and then it took him 5 years to get the Nobel Prize, figured out what they're going to do with it. That today you wouldn't even think twice about it. I think as we think about our podcast, we have no idea what we're creating when we create it.
Yeah.
You just never know where it's going to go. And he had one prize. It's now 6 and in science and art and all these other different areas, but you never know what you're starting. So just start.
Just start.
There you
doesn't have to be perfect to start, but you do have to start if you're eventually going to be perfect. And
guarantee if you don't start, it'll never happen. Guarantee it.
Exactly. So, Jim, are you thirsty?
I am super. Oops, I got to grab the right cup. There we go. Super thirsty, Dave. Help me out.
And of course, that coffee pour is brought to you by our good friend Mark over at podcastbranding.co. If you need a logo, if you need artwork, if you need a full-blown website, well, it'd be great if you could find a podcaster that also did graphic design. Wait, we know somebody, and that's Mark over at podcastbranding.co. He's an award-winning graphic artist, and he's been podcasting for quite a while, and he's Canadian, which means he's polite. And last night, I was doing some stuff. I was making a video, and for some reason, Spotify had not updated to my new logo for Ask the Podcast Coach. And it's one of those things where, when you wake up in the morning and you look in the mirror and you go, yeah, and it was like, oh, it's the old logo. Ugh. So I was very happy to see that update to the new logo. So if you're looking to be super proud of your podcast artwork, then you got to go over and see Mark at podcastbranding.co.
Cappuccino, hold the phone. Take me home.
Always good.
You want to have fun?
Yeah.
Do you know what's won a Nobel Peace Prize?
Lots of things, but what do you have in mind?
I think it's ivermectin, the horse wormer medicine that Joe Rogan took.
Really?
Isn't that the name of that stuff?
I don't know.
Yeah, I did. It's. We could go in a total. I was just kidding. We're not going to go down that road. But what we are going to go down is I saw this question in Facebook. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
we got to thank. You're excited to get into the show. Big thanks, Dan Lefebvre over there, based on a true story podcast, podcast.com and that Nobel Prize thing. True story, by the way. I looked it up this morning. True story. Dan, thanks for your sponsorship here on Ask the Podcast Coach.
Do you know what Dan also does? I was at...
He's handsome. I know that.
He is handsome. What's one of those things where you get all sorts of free images? It's like Shutterstock, but it's a different name.
Okay.
Anyway, I forget what it was. I was in a thing, and it's like, do you want to use this royalty-free stuff?
Yeah.
And look for images. So I typed in podcast, and up popped this beautiful picture of an SM7B, and the photo credit was Dan. And I was like, I did not know that Dan did.
He's a talented guy. I'm looking forward. I need to book him on Home Gadget Geeks again. He's very, very talented and a very good podcaster. So I need to get him back on. All right. I interrupted your story.
No, that's right. I was so excited. I just saw this and I was like, so this was from Jerry, and Jerry was in I think this is the Podcast Movement Facebook group, which has 50,000 people in it now.
Crazy.
And there's a lot of people in there doing market research. I don't know. That's like the new, we used to kind of make fun of the questions we see all the time. What's your biggest struggle with podcasting? And I was like, people doing market research in Facebook groups. Anyway, he says, curious for your opinion. So he did ask for opinions. Last year, I moved my interview podcast, which wasn't gaining much of an audience, I would love to know what that means in numbers. But anyway, he says, I moved it to YouTube. And since I've been recording video, but still no major growth. Again, I would love to know what that looks like. Now that Anchor/Spotify is offering the chance to do videos. And for the record, everyone, let's talk about that. Spotify does not let you upload video unless you're using Anchor. I had a couple people this week like, hey, my latest episode isn't showing up on Anchor, and they'd uploaded video. And if you're not uploading that on Anchor, and I think there's even more asterisks, like you have to be on the app. It's one of those Spotify things. But anyway, going back to the question, now that Anchor and Spotify is offering the chance to do video shows on their platform that are automatically available as audio podcast as well, do you think it makes sense to pull away from YouTube and focus on those platforms? And so for me, when I see this, it's one of those things where I did an episode a while back, like, hey, if I move from whatever, Buzzsprout to Captivate or Libsyn to Blueberry, whatever, that maybe I'll get more traction. And to me, the one thing that's a constant here, and I don't mean to, like, I don't want to throw Jerry under the bus, but the one thing that's the constant here is Jerry. And it's not that Jerry's bad, but I'm like, I get the feeling it's an interview show. So already it's like, okay, I wish he would have given me more insight on what his show was about. And I mean, is it just it's the interesting show where we have interesting people tell interesting stories and blah, blah, blah. But
well, interesting is a hard label because what exactly is that? And, I was telling you in the pre-show, I watched this guy who has a sawmill and he just saws logs. And you're like, how interesting can that be? Well, it's 50,000 subscribers interesting. Right. I mean, they've done things to interact with their audience. They let people send them flags and license plates and some of those kinds of things. I'm always surprised at what people send to YouTubers, right? But I find that interesting. Like for me, I just need to I want to sit and just watch something. I'll watch this guy cut lumber, and it's what I need at the moment. So I think you just do your thing. Like do what makes you happy. Record it. If people want to watch it, awesome. If they don't, you still had a good time. Like I think sometimes we overthink this thing, and it's like record yourself on YouTube. Record yourself doing what you do. Listen, Home Gadget Geeks doesn't do very well on YouTube. It just is not. It's two talking heads. Could it? I don't know. Maybe someday. I guess. I don't know. I don't really care. I enjoy doing it. It makes the podcast. I just throw it out there. So you never know. You just never know.
Well, the other thing I see when I see people go, I didn't see any major growth, and I was like, podcasting in general grows 3 to 5% a year. So, if you went from 100 downloads an episode and a year later you're at 110, that's a 10% growth.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, it's like, so I don't know. I just saw that and was like, somebody that was doing market research that said, what do you think people are not doing in podcasting? And I go, hands down, I don't think people are getting honest feedback.
Yeah.
I think they're happy that they released it. They got one recorded. They released it. Mom said it was great, yada, yada, yada. And I was just like, I don't know. There you go.
Yeah. Dan jumping in.
Unsplash. I could not remember the name of that.
Dan's a little, he said he's a little bit behind. I think, I think most podcasters, you also give up too early. They make a few of these, they don't get very much traction. They get frustrated and they stop. The, Apple Podcast is littered with these 3 to 7, 3 to 10, where they tried some stuff like, nobody listened. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's possible. Nobody, the YouTube content or even the podcast content that I've listened to, that I continue to listen to, gets better. They just continue to get better with their production. I put up with a lot, early on, especially if they're brand new. You're like, oh, they'll get better. If I keep watching them and they keep making the same mistakes, then I'm kind of like, well, okay, like, I kind of need you to at least be trying with it. So I do like the fact that I think podcasters, the ones I want to continue to support and hang out with, are continually growing. They're continually figuring things out. They're adding value to what they're doing. It's just not the same production that it was 2 or 3 years ago. So I just think they give up too early.
Yeah, that's it. I'm not on Jay Leno Jimmy Fallon, any of the Jimmys, and I've done 10 episodes. So yeah, I was actually I just popped over to podcastindex.org talking about shows that die early. 4,442,359 podcasts total, but how many have done an episode in the last 60 days? So it's been 2 months, 407,145. So there's a lot of podcasts. I mean, granted, one of those is Serial, who hasn't done a podcast in a while, but okay, they're not all true crime shows that did 8 episodes and quit. There are a lot of people, I think, that just started, and like you said, for whatever reason, they gave up too soon. Or the other thing I'm noticing is people that start a show and they want to make money with it. Fine. You don't have to make money with your podcast, but fine that you do. Great. Do you have a product to sell? No. Do you have an audience? No. Okay. What's your show about? It's an interview show. So it doesn't really tie to anything. I talk to anybody. I'm looking for interesting stories. I'm like, it's just, and that's the person that does 7 shows and they realize maybe it's a case where they don't know what they don't know. And so by the time they get to episode 8, they're like, oh, I was supposed to do some thought about this. Maybe. I don't know, but
yeah,
it's interesting.
Well, Mystic Max says did a live Thanksgiving sermon. I don't know how many people listen, but if it's just one,
right,
good enough for me. That like I agree with that in concept, but that's sure disappointing when it's 1 or 2. You're like, oh, well, okay. I mean, we say that, and I'm not trying to discount that at all, but there's sometimes you do that, and you're like, oh, yeah, shoot, that I was hoping for a few more than that.
Yeah. Hindenburg, which I'm a big fan of, starting yesterday, will kick off Black Friday 2021 by offering the following annual subscription services. So if you want to do Hindenburg Pro, they took journalist out of the name, by the way. To me, I'm like, if I'm going to change my name, I don't know, I might get rid of the word Hindenburg. But anyway, let's see. You can now get the Pro for just $6 a month for the first year. And then the narrator, which they've changed that name, I think, as well, to $750 for the first year. Sale ends November 29th. Jim, did you pick up any Black Friday chocolatey goodness?
No, I didn't. I
did.
avoid it. Did you? What'd you get?
I made a big mistake.
Oh, no.
I read the fine print at Sweetwater's 6-month, same as cash deal.
Okay.
And here's the really bad news.
Yeah.
It's 6 months, same as cash.
Okay.
Like there's no interest. You pay, I think, an extra, I don't know, $10 for some sort of weird processing. But as long as you, like, if you're in a world of hurt, if they go to charge your card next month and it doesn't go through, that's a problem. But that's not going to be a problem for me. And so I will have a Shure SM7B in the studio.
Oh, wow.
Soon. Yeah. I'm actually pondering getting a Tascam Mixcast 4, which is really stupid because I'm sitting in front of a Rodecaster. But I don't know why, but I feel weird. I don't know how to explain it. But the fact that, I mean, on one hand, I'm super grateful that I have a Rodecaster in front of me that I got for free. But there's part of me that's like, I kind of feel I should be using something I paid for. I don't know why that's weird. And the other thing, I actually watched a lot of videos on the Tascam. The only big drawback that I hate is you can't change the sound, the little button thingies. Well, I sit here every Saturday with 8 jingles and pretty much get through. On occasion, I will have to switch to a second bank. But I want to play a little bit with I forgot Tascam launched, and you don't have to have the Tascam Mixcast 4 to use it, but they launched free software that looks a lot like Hindenburg that I was like, huh. So I am, my wallet is still kind of going, you're not done yet. Because it's when you do the 6 months thing, it's like, well, I can afford that a month. And it's not forever. It's only 6 months. And I'm like, I need to back away from the website quickly. So, but no, the Shure SM7B never goes on sale. I need it like a hole in the head. I'm very happy with my microphone.
Yeah.
I could have rented one from whatever, MikeRentals.com, but at any rate,
Oh, Dave, do we need an intervention there? Do I need a financial intervention? Send
Maybe.
it back. Send
Yes.
it back.
And Daniel's saying, can I get an SM7 cheaper? Probably. That's true when I think about it. I haven't worked with my holes. I tried to sell podcast gear, and that's when I learned, number one, there was a very small margin on podcast gear. So when you're trying to compete with the Amazons of the world and things like that, and just at the time, it was just a lot of weird things where people would order from me. I'd had to put the order in, then it would ship. It just wasn't super seamless. And then it just dawned on me at the time, I was making, I think, 7% off of Amazon affiliates, and which of course now is like not that anymore. It's 3-4%, something like that. Yeah. And I just went, I could make 10% selling my own stuff, or I could make 7% and send people to Amazon who are, people already super, familiar with and things like that. So I just quit. That lasted about 4 months, and I sold a few things, but it was just a lot of work for very little income for that. So Stefan is asking me, when I looked at the Tascam podcast software, it stated you needed a serial number. The video I saw, it's always fun watching people in videos say things that you go, yep, that's somebody didn't do their like they were saying, there's a talkback button on the Tascam. They're like, this is the only one that has a talkback button. Well, no, you can do that on the Rodecaster. I forget what kind of combination of buttons I could pick, but I could actually talk to just the person who's plugged into headphone number 2 if I wanted to. There are a couple other things that I saw people go, and Tascam is the only one that's doing that. Like, no, you can do that on a Rodecaster too. It was kind of interesting watching these videos, but they were, the one guy I watched said you can use Tascam software without needing it's like you can't automatically import the stuff, but that was one that I was like, huh. Yeah, Daniel is saying selling individual gear is difficult. Yeah, Cliff found the magic in setting a kit. Yeah, Cliff would just sell everything to everybody, which worked great for him. But I was constantly finding people that bought his kit that really just needed a microphone. Like they were going to do a solo show, and they've got this big 12, channel mixer. And I'm like, why did you buy that? I was like, it was part of the deal. And I was like, So
I hated selling gear or recommending gear because you'd always get that one person who bought it and then was like, this isn't what you said. It's like, okay, it's not mine. Like if it's not working, contact their support. You said, you should. And I'm like, no. You need to call their support. Like I'm not the support line for them. I'm not going to answer questions. So I really kind of pulled back from that. I was just like, I don't know. Let's just let people just decide on their own.
Well, that's why I like Sweetwater. Sweetwater offers tech support. If you buy stuff there, you can actually call them for tech support, which just dawned on. As I say the word Sweetwater, I just realized I need to email their affiliate manager because I'm always making Sweetwater affiliate links to send to people. And I'm pretty sure that purchase is going to show up on my, like, it's going to look like I bought stuff through my affiliate link, and they need to go, I don't want commission on that one. That one was for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So a couple other things here. Apple Charts. Let me put this in the chat room. James Cridlin put out, well, actually, I think Apple put out a statement saying this, but basically the whole, the chart ranking system, which isn't really charts, it says encompass a mix of new follows, playback activity, and this is the one that I went, ooh, and completion rate. Ratings and reviews aren't factored into the charts. So if you wonder, how do I get up the charts? It's the number of new followers, which isn't new. That used to be the number of subscribers, playback activity, and completion rate. So I love the fact that it's completion rate. That's, now we're talking, it should be good shows that are getting to the top. And I still say, I've known people that have been at the top of the charts and it didn't really do much for them, but at least now we can, it's funny.
Well, it's a combination of a whole bunch of things, right?
Yeah.
It just is. There's no magic formula for it. Certainly, I always say act like those things do work, but don't be surprised when they don't. Because it may, getting there may help, but don't be shocked when well, I've done all these things and nothing happened. Well, maybe your podcast just isn't that good, or
Yeah.
maybe it's not at the right time, or maybe you're still not reaching the right audience. I mean, there's some of those kinds of things that just doing that stuff doesn't guarantee anything.
Well, it doesn't. I always say to people, there are really, really like just top of the line musicians in Nashville, Tennessee, waiting tables. Like they're in the right place. They're super talented. They've got the look. And, it's like you said, sometimes it's timing, sometimes it's who you know,
Yeah,
and
don't know.
I guess that's one of the things I'm kind of seeing is people think it's like building a puzzle. Like all I have to do is take the box off, arrange all the pieces, and the puzzle will fit together once I figure that out. And then in this case, it's like, and money will fall from heaven. And it's like, no, it's like you can do all this stuff, but that doesn't, there are a lot of shows on Netflix that get canceled, and that's the one that always gets me. If you think about it, Netflix knows exactly what we like to watch because we can see how far we've watched on their platform. So they're kind of not guessing on what people like. So I always think it's kind of interesting when they cancel a show because I was like, well, didn't you know what we like? Like I'm either A or maybe the actors all renegotiated their contract. Who knows? But
it gets those. That's the problem with the popular shows is the actors get paid. Now it's not cost effective to do it anymore, and so they're like, okay, we're paying the actors everything, and there's nothing left, right, or whatever. It's I'm watching a lot of OG podcasters, Dave. It seems like kind of just kind of fade out. They're just like, done this long enough, type deal. And they're just not podcasting like they used to. And I think this is, there's two things. One, this is an industry that doesn't have to go on forever. You don't have to have your podcast forever. It doesn't have to be the rest. I'm going to retire with this podcast. Two, short-term things are fine. Like you can do a 3-year thing, or you can do a 1-year thing, or you can do 15 episodes type deal, right? So don't feel like you have to do that thing forever. But I am noticing a lot of the OG, I shouldn't say a lot because I don't keep track of that, but
right. Well,
I get that feeling.
The fun part is after you do it a while, you're kind of like, oh, we could do a show about, oh wait, we already did that.
Mm-hmm.
Or why don't we talk about that? We did that back in, 2012. Like, oh, all right. And that's when you go, well, let's do it again. Because what are the chances of somebody finding episode 4 from, wherever? Stephen is asking, what about the Shure MVI audio interface? Is it okay? It says Shure at the beginning of it, I would guess, like as a backup or travel gear. My favorite backup or travel gear is this one, the Zoom PodTrack P4, which you hear me say all the time, because you can record up to 4 people in the same room with you at the same time. You can plug it in as a USB interface and a recorder at the same time, where the Shure is just an interface. You can do fun-filled jingle thingies on it, and it's a headphone amplifier, and it's the size of a checkbook, and it's $200. Now, granted, that's twice as much as the Shure over at Sweetwater right now. They're listing it at $99, but I don't know. And to me, and it also depends on what microphone you have. If you've got a Shure SM7B and you don't have a cloud lifter, in some cases, you kind of got to look at how much gain you get with the interface. Yeah. And then the other question you want to ask there is, how much traveling do you do? I almost spent a lot of money on a pedal. It's amazing, the technology. I'll try to say this quick. You plug a microphone and your guitar into this thing. When you play a chord, you say, give me a lower harmony and an upper harmony. You hit the chord and go, ooh, and it is 3-part harmony, and it does not sound like a robot. And then it's based on, like, if I play a C minor chord instead of C major, it makes the oohs minor. And I was like, okay, and where am I going to use that? Once or twice at church. I'm like, that's not really worth the money to use once or twice. Yes, it's cool technology and, it's exciting, but I was like, So that's the other thing when you think about that. Sometimes Bandrew Scott was saying on Podcastage No, that's his channel. I forget the name of his show. Anyway, he was saying so many times we go to, like right now I'm on Sweetwater's website and they show you all the deals and you just kind of scroll until you go, ooh, that is a lot of money off that. Not, do I need that? And that's when I saw the 6 months same as cash. When I was living at home with no bills, but I had a decent job at a grocery store, why my parents didn't charge me rent, I don't know.
They were being nice to you, Dave. They were
yeah,
nice.
but man, it's like the one sales guy that I had a decent relationship with, he just knew I was 90 days same as cash guy. And I ended up with a lot of really cool gear because of 90 days same as cash.
Yeah, you just got to be careful that doesn't become a two. If you're doing one at a time or whatever, it's not a big deal. I think I paid for the mini that way. It's $80 a month for a year. Why not? It's free money.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I spread it out? I could have paid for it then. The problem is if you do that, you do that too much. Dave, I love the conversation you're having though, and I think this is important. You're having this around value. Like, yeah, okay, it's cool gear. Like I go through this all the time with that microphone you just ordered. Should I have a high LPR 40 or an SM7B or an RE320 or even an RE20? Should I have one of those? And then I think this works great. And guess what? I'm not like value for value. And so I think sometimes we think this is what stops me from buying things. I go to the store and then right before I'm going to buy it, I go, am I really going to use this thing?
That's it.
Am I really going to use it? And you don't really know. Sometimes you buy it and it's the greatest thing ever and you end up using it. And then it was so good you can never find it again after you break it. I hate those. But I love that idea of like, this is you don't know. As soon as you don't buy it, you need it. Right?
Yeah. And when you do buy it, there's going to be a point when I talk into that microphone and I'm going to go, does that sound better? Am I more confident in my voice now? That's really 9 times out of 10, I think, what a microphone is. And let's say I do like the Shure SM7B. Well, now I got a $300 RE320 sitting here doing nothing.
Yeah.
It's like, So it is interesting. Interesting comment here from Code 3 Podcast. Sometimes a crushing bout of depression, which often comes along with the holidays, causes pod fading. Yeah, sometimes, you don't want to make the donuts anymore. That old commercial, and the holidays are stressful. Throw in COVID and, it's a lot of work in cases. I know today, I think today or tomorrow, I'm probably going to put up my tree. I have that weird thing in my family where my brother goes to Florida early and we end up doing Christmas like a week to a week and a half early. So consequently, I want to set up all my stuff early and I have stuff to like put on bookcases and this and that. And I said, I think I'm doing the tree. Like, I don't really need to decorate the bookcases. I may or may not put up lights on the windows because, I'm just, and that's fine. You don't have to. There's a lot of stress sometimes that in the name of tradition. Oh, well, we always do the world's not going to stop if we don't put the, you can break those traditions in some cases.
We started a new tradition this year. We hid bacon inside one of the rolls, and didn't even think about it as we were making it. One of the ladies did that. And then during dinner, we were like, oh, so whoever gets that roll gets Sierra, my daughter-in-law, gets Sierra because we were doing stocking. And like everybody was like, this is so gross. We should do this every year, right? And if you find the bacon, and my wife ended up finding the bacon, so it was a good new tradition. But I'm with you that sometimes, well, even with our podcasting, we have podcast traditions that we do. We do it because we've always done it that way, and it may be holding you back a little bit. You and I have been spending a bunch of time talking about what 2022 will look like.
Yeah.
For Ask the Podcast Coach. Listen, we've already talked more about that than we have in the 6 years we've been doing this together. It's like, wow, we're gonna make some format changes coming in 2022. And it's good to let some things go. I think it'll be good to mix some things up. We'll get some feedback. We'll change some things. We'll get some feedback, see how it goes.
And we're gonna have some people that don't like the changes.
Yeah.
And other people that will like the show even better. This is coming back to the school of podcasting. As soon as she said it, I was like, oh, that's a podcast. If you have not watched a Hallmark movie, I love Hallmark movies. Why? They make me laugh so hard because they have the ingredients. Somebody has a dead parent. That's always in there. You have child actors that cannot act their way out of a bag, and some actor that you have not seen in a very long time. You were like, hey, weren't they on Hill Street Blues? That kind of person or whatever from the 80s or the 90s that haven't acted in a while. And of course, the two most hottest single people who hate each other eventually get together at the end. So we're going to watch the football game. We're going to, all the men are in the basement. The females are upstairs watching Hallmark movies. And there's another one coming on. I said, oh, I got to watch this. I said, these are great. So it's me, my brother, my cousin, and then the wives. And we're all kind of laughing at the format. And my one, I guess would be cousin-in-law, says, now, hold on, guys. She's like, wait a minute. I like Hallmark movies because I know exactly what I'm going to get. I don't have to worry about language or nudity or violence. I love the format. They never disappoint. I get exactly what I want. And I was like, that's a podcast. Yeah. I go, that's because I'm sitting here making fun of it, but there are going to be those people, and there are going to be other people though that will not watch a Hallmark movie because they know the two people get together at the end and they live happily ever after. Like every movie ends the same way. And I was like, that's an interesting. So as much as we're going to change the format, there are going to be those people that really love the format, and they're not going to be happy when you change. Well, but
sneak peek, I'll be shirtless. So right. Every week, Jim is shirtless.
Nice. That would be fun. No, you don't want to see me shirtless. No.
Me either.
No.
Not.
So, but who is nice enough to always wear clothes?
Maybe James over there at the Dog Podcast. Before you do that, can I get a support on
coffee?
On pour? Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm thirsty this morning.
So yes, James over at the Dog Podcast Network. So if you're looking for a show to listen to while you're walking the dog around the block, or right now it was 29 when I woke up in Ohio today. And these are the days I'm glad I don't have a dog. Cause I remember you look out and there's some poor guy freezing to death going, come on, Tippy, do your business. So if you need something to listen to while you're freezing to death walking your dog, check out the Dog Podcast Network. A lot of great stuff. And they also have longer shows and short shows and things like that. And we always like to thank our $20 supporters. Awesome people like Glenn the Geek Hebert over at horseradionetwork.com. If you go over to, I think it's schoolofpodcasting.com/802. I just interviewed Glenn about some really cool stuff, some feedback he got from his audience. Shane Whaley over at Tourpreneur. If you operate a tour business or plan on starting one, well, that podcast is for you over at tourpreneur.com. Felix at the Latin Podcast Awards. They are dedicated to enhancing the visibility of Latinx podcasts, and they've been around all the way since 2017. Find them at latinpodcastawards.com. Max Trescott up in the air at aviationnewstalk.com. Kim and Dr. Is that Dr. Faye, Dr. Faye? I need clarification.
I think it's Dr.
Dr. All right. Yeah. Anyway, if you are looking for like editing, production, good show notes, boy, if you're in the podcast Facebook group for Podcast Movement, it's fun because there are people over there looking for this service. So ladies, hang out over there. Lots of people looking for basically what they're calling a podcast manager, and you can find them both at podcastmanager.info. I'm always, when I see that question in a Facebook group with 50,000 people, because everybody in there can be an editor. It's like me. Speaking of editors, if you are looking for an LGBTQ plus founded company focused on helping all levels of podcasters to grow their podcast, regardless of what you're looking for, Caden is over there to help you over at kjstmedia.com. Michael Delaney over at Baby Mountain Radio Productions, where podcasting and hard work are made fun. Find him at babymountainradio.com. Greg over at debtshepherd.com, where he is teaching financial wellness. So as you start to think about wrapping up the year and you start thinking about 2022 and you're like, I need to make some changes, go check out Greg at debtshepherd.com. The Indie Drop-In Network, if you do a scary story or a true crime or a comedy show, you can basically give them an episode and they will put it in front of their audience. And all the shows are 100% creator submitted, and you can find them over at indiedropin.com. That is a white screen of death. That's from the same one from last week.
Yeah,
they're popular.
Just blank.
I don't know what's going on with that. Anyway, that's what it is. I've somehow put an animation on this, I think. But if you'd like to be an awesome supporter, go over to askthepodcastcoach.com/awesome. And you can also go to askthepodcastcoach.com/store if you're looking for other ways to support the show. So thanks to all of our awesome supporters. We greatly appreciate that. And do we have a clarification? Nope, it's just DR. Yes, it's not doctor. But it would be fun to, do we have a doctor of podcasting yet? I'm sure we do. There's got to be somebody that's taken that.
Maybe it's a doctorate in communications. That would probably be something.
There we go.
That would be a good way to do it. That's a lot of school for just that. It's a lot. I could never do it.
Yeah. Gary's saying I had a lot of feedback from Glenn's interview.
Glenn was on fire a little bit. You could kind of tell he had just been thinking through, like he came back from that trip. He had a lot of lessons learned with it.
Yeah. And as I look down, it's 11:07. You have till the end of this show. If you've not submitted your the question of the month at schoolofpodcasting.com/question, the question of the month is, how long did it take you to go from idea to hitting publish on your podcast? The deadline was actually yesterday, but I'm not starting that until I get done editing this show. So, Jim, have I asked you that question yet?
Ask it to me again.
How long does it take you to go from idea to hitting publish on your media host?
I think it'd probably be probably a month. Well, depends on whether I'm doing it for work or just personal. If it's personal, I could probably crack that thing out in a week just to get just all the pieces put together.
But do you know like how many hours you think? See, that's the tough one.
Yeah, it's probably a good day of full work, probably 8 to 10 hours spread across a week. It just takes time. I don't know if I could sit down in one sitting to do it. I had this epiphany this week. I used to have this show called Home Tech Tips, which I kind of let go. And I thought, no, during the week, I could be editing parts of the interviews that I do out and making those home tech tips. There's probably 10 to 15 hours worth of work to get that running again. So at work, that's a whole different scenario because I got to get a whole bunch of people involved to make it work there, because we've got different folks, editors, and I'll have to have somebody make the album art and some of those kinds of pieces. So it takes a little bit longer.
Yeah. Do we want to play with a new tool? Stefan says, what about a giveaway? And it's so funny he said that because StreamYard just added this feature. So I'm going to try this.
Oh, yeah.
If you put in, I'm going to take his gift idea.
How do they get to this thing?
Okay, so here, I think all you have to do, if you would like to be featured on the podcast Rodeo show, let me show you what I'm doing here. So I've gone to StreamYard.com/giveaway, and I was able to pick our current broadcast that we're on right now. And it says anything that matches the text #rodeo. So it says any users whose comment includes the text will be entered in the drawing. Leave it blank if you want all users that comment to be entered. So I guess if I leave this blank, then everybody who's left a comment would be in it. If you guys want to be on the podcast, should I leave it blank or should we have a hashtag?
Let's hashtag it Ask the Podcast Coach.
That's too long. Here we go. ATPC.
There you go.
So anybody that puts in hashtag ATPC in the chat room here on askthepodcastcoach.com/live will be entered to be featured on the podcast Rodeo show. Now, if you're not familiar with the podcast Rodeo show, well, that is where I basically grab your show. It's what I tell people to do. I go over and I listen to the first part of your show. So for instance, this last episode of the Bay State Rock, it's a music show, and they just started it off with music. Like all of a sudden you hit play and you get, you know, and I was like, not like, hey, welcome to the Bay State Rock Show where we feature rock music from what it was like a really bad Bon Jovi band as well. The guy was like, I was gonna do, just gonna do, and I was like, wow. So they kind of got a thumbs down from me, but I was just like, hey, here's my first impression. And I will so do we have so far we have a whopping 3 people.
What's the instructions again? Just give them the instructions.
Yeah, in the instructions, if you go to the chat room and type in hashtag AT. Now, see, they're putting in Rodeo. Yeah, hashtag ATPC. There you go. Jim's got it. So right now, your chances of winning are about 30%. And we will give you. Should we do this at the end of the show?
Yeah, well, we just promote it. We'll just promote it throughout the show.
Yeah. So
then you're gonna. Did you
at the very end? I'm gonna click start collecting comments. It will.
No, start it now, because like none of these comments will matter if we don't, right?
That's a good question.
I think that needs to be. I think that needs to be started for these to count.
Well, we'll find out. You guys ready?
Okay.
All right. All right. So I'm gonna click on start collecting comments. There are 5 entries. Oh, I see. Okay, that's it. You got it right. And at the end of the show, I will click draw, and it will pick a winner.
Nice.
Good guess there, Jim. I like that. All right. So then we can come back. I mean, it'll be like, so again, just add hashtag ATPC to be in the drawing.
The dedupe.
And
I put it in a bunch of times.
It does dedupe. Yeah.
It's
only 5. So that's interesting. I need to put a banner for that across the bottom. That'd be fun in a way. So, and at the end, I'm up to 7 entries. We can be like, who it was Jerry Lewis and what was it? Ed McMahon. We can go back to the board every now and then. Do you remember? Does anybody else not remember Memorial Day weekend?
Oh, yeah. No,
it's sure. We're giving away a free feature on the podcast Rodeo show. We're playing with the giveaway feature of StreamYard. This is brand new.
If you put it in again just to make sure, like who knows? Just okay, but
we are not giving away the Sub 7B, but that would be nice.
I don't. Okay, so this is great from a chat room standpoint, but it doesn't do much from a social discovery standpoint. Like I would prefer this to be on Twitter or this to be somewhere where it would create some. Even if it created the comments in YouTube, like I see a lot of YouTubers doing this where they'll have a question. Let me know down in the comments, right? Because those comments are a signpost for engagement on YouTube. Of course, the more comments you get, YouTube pushes your video up. So this, I'm trying to figure out like, okay, how is this helping us accept picking a winner? By the way, that rodeo show scares the bejesus out of me. Like I would never in a million years want to hear you riding Home Gadget Geeks. I've been afraid of that the whole time I've known you.
Well, I mean, there are shows that I like. And really all I'm looking for is welcome to the show where we talk about blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Today we're going to talk about yada, yada, yada.
I don't do that part. I don't do that today. We're going to talk about. We go to the weather and then we just jump in what we're gonna.
Yeah, see the weather would be probably
you give me. It scares that. I've always wondered. I wonder what kind of feedback I'd get from Dave Jackson if he spent some time on Home Gadget Geeks.
Yeah, but it's what my whole thing though is like. It's just an opinion though. It's
still scares the bejesus out of me. I think my heart rate. Hold on. I think my heart rate's gone up just thinking about
it. Let's see here. We did that. I have something here about speaking of contests. What are the best podcast contests? And I think what they're meaning is like the podcast awards. Right now I think it's the Ambies from the podcast thing that Rob Greenlee's kind of part of. I can't remember the name of it to enter. And so what are the best contests to enter and what is required? And do you create a reel to do that? I know there are more of them. I think for me, I don't, I mean, on occasion I will submit for the podcast awards. I mean, we've got 2 behind me. And they're fun. I mean, they're cute, and it's, you get to put these, they're great bookends.
Do you get 20% off pizza when you go to
That's it. I go
Little
in
Caesars?
and I go, hey, in 2017, I won best technology. Can I get extra pepperoni with that? And they go, no. So I know one person, I had a client of mine, and it fit so perfectly. She really wanted to win any kind of award. Why? Because she was an Olympian and she's used to competing. And she's like, aren't there any like contests to win or something? Like, I need to compete. And I was like, so they're handy and they look good on a resume and things like that. But that's the only ones I know of are the podcast awards. I think there's a Webbies, if I remember right. I guess I know this. I've tried to run. I used to have one of my many podcasts that no longer is around was battlingbands.com. And I tried so many different scripts for people to vote on. And I think it was like $2 to enter. Because what it was primarily indie bands, which had stuff on CD Baby, which is a website. And I was a CD Baby affiliate. So I would make money. And what would happen is it'd be like, okay, in the heavy metal category, it's, Sweet Revenge versus, whatever, Black Death or whatever. And the Black Death people already had the Black Death music, but they liked Sweet Revenge because it's the same kind of genre. So they'd go buy the other band stuff and I would earn a commission. But the thing that blew me away was, and if you won, you got to play again for free. So like you got a whopping, you got paid in exposure. And every script I used, people would freak out and try to hack it. And they would clear their cookies and and I was like, it's $2. Like, why? So if you're thinking of, we should start our own award show, have fun with that. I know Todd always talks about Todd has a thing they somehow dedupe email addresses and things like that.
If you ever want me to quit, just say that sentence again. We should start our own award show.
Ask the Podcast Coach Awards. No.
I'm out. I am out. I'm out. Not doing that. It's too much work and not enough. I don't know how Todd does it. There's not enough reward there. Like, it's just nobody's happy in the end. Even the people who won, sometimes, he had to do all these gyrations to make sure people would show up or they would submit videos. Like, you can't win if you didn't submit a video. Like, come on, people. Like, it's one of those things like, no, there's not enough hours. There's not enough hate in the day already.
That's it. The Podcast Rodeo Awards.
Come on. Oh my gosh.
The Working Cows podcast. I listened to every episode of the Podcast Rodeo show before submitting my show the first time. I think it warped me into always getting to the point and holding off show related announcements until the end. Well, again, it's just my opinion. You don't have to change a thing about your show. The first prize is gummy bears. Well, there you go. That's exciting for some people. I mean, gummies mean a whole different thing now. I didn't realize that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like if somebody says, I can't go to bed without my gummies, I'm like, why are you eating candy before you go to bed? And it turns out that's not what they were talking about.
Oh, those kinds of gummies. Which are perfectly legal, by the way. Perfectly in states that have not legalized it. These gummies are perfectly legal. So
there you go.
So don't judge people.
Here we go. Some fun trivia. Daniel J. Lewis from The Audacity to Podcast and, of course, My Podcast Reviews said he tried to buy the Podcast Awards years ago when Todd wanted to sell them, but he changed his mind. It's a lot of work. When I was doing the New Media Expo, that's when Rick almost owned the Podcast Awards, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's just there's no reward. No. Like I don't get it. I would, it's like, beating yourself for nothing. It just is. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
So Jim's quote of the week: "There's not enough hate in the day." Especially around the holidays. The holidays bring out the hate in people.
Well, listen, my daughter was telling me, I guess in the mental health space, Monday is the worst day of the year because everybody's been at family for Thanksgiving, and all that it just stirs up all that stuff in people, and so everybody's calling their therapist on Monday. So let me say this: you've had a tough week or a tough weekend. There are people there to help. So don't if you're feeling it, you're at the bottom. This weekend sent you into a tailspin, whatever. There are folks to help. Please reach out to somebody and get some help. Okay. Looks like we got somebody in Clubhouse.
I'm going to say I was feeling bad. I completely ignored. I forgot I started a Clubhouse room. I looked down and the one and only Chris Christensen has got his hand here. So
awesome. Bring him in.
Chris, how are you, buddy? And is my cord not plugged in? It's not muted. Interesting. I'm blinking. So Chris, either your mic isn't plugged in or because it blinks. So that means I would think it means, and it might be that Chris's hand was raised so long that he just said, forget it.
It's from last week's show.
Well, actually I take that back because he did just move himself to, I think when you invite somebody to the, the stage.
Yeah.
Do they have to reply?
Can you hear me now?
There he is. Now we can hear him.
Well, I did was mute and unmute. I wasn't even sure you were taking hand raises.
Well, I apologize for making you wait so long because a lot of I don't promote a lot on Clubhouse. And,
it's your show.
How are you?
You can do whatever you like. I'm good. You were talking about awards though.
Yes.
And I do not have one of those nifty bookends that you're talking about because Lou Mongello from WDW Radio, he and I would go, well, I say head to head every year when there was a travel category in the podcast awards, but I think it was Lou and then I also ran. And, it was always the two of us and then maybe some other Disney shows. And he beat me soundly for year after year after year. And finally, they retired him. They said, you're going to be
right.
Retired because you always win. And then they retired the whole category. So,
that's not fair.
This momentary moment of, hey, maybe I have a chance this year. And oh no, never mind. But what for your listeners, what might be actually more useful than a podcast award is any sort of award or recognition in their particular industry. So for instance, if I'd won a podcast award, it would have been cool, but nobody that I'm pitching to, I have a travel show, AmateurTraveler. So nobody that I'm pitching to bring me to the Galapagos Islands would care. But I entered some travel journalism competitions. And so now I have travel journalism awards. So one, I can say I'm a travel journalist now because they said it.
Nice.
But also, probably the best one I won, I didn't have to enter. It wasn't that kind of contest. It was a judged contest and they just award them. Nobody enters. But, when right at the top of my site, now it says, Travel and Leisure Magazine named Chris the best independent travel journalist in their SMITI Awards. I'm trying to remember what it stands for, Social Media and Travel Technology Awards. And, that was 7 years ago, but I'm still sending that out in every media kit. So if there are awards or recognition in your area, in my case, that can earn me a trip to Galapagos. So that's fairly useful.
Good point. Yeah, because people in the travel industry, like, oh, I won Best Podcast Award. They're like, who? What? So, yeah, that's a great point. And
I already have to try and tell them what a podcast is. So,
Well, and the best thing is, especially the one that you don't even have to submit. They just find you and give you an award. That's the best. So.
Yeah, it's hard to make that part of your strategy, but.
Yeah. Awesome. Anything else we can help you with, Chris?
Nope, that was my comment.
All right. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate
Thanks for jumping in. Thanks for jumping in, especially on Clubhouse. That's
yeah. Well, now I need to
road to hoe.
I realize we have two people over there. I got to pay attention now.
Yeah, you got to probably get that in front of you somewhere,
Yeah.
so you're constantly kind of looking at it.
I'll put it on my charger, so that'll work.
There you go.
Awesome. Let's see. The chat room says we're really you've made a bumper sticker, Jim.
Every show I try to have at least one good line. If you go back, there's some really good ones out there. I didn't think that one was going to get the love that it did, but apparently I'm going to make a sermon tomorrow. There's not enough hate in the day. Thinking that will make my sermon tomorrow. Thanks.
Nice.
I think.
I see Daniel is saying that I have more podcast awards than he does. He says, but my award has more dust. I don't know. When I pick this thing up and it's black, if you look at the top of this, there's a lot of dust on that bad boy. I was like, okay, I need to maybe dust these off or just dust in general. So, which, by the way, if you don't have one of these, he said, holding up, this is something I got in a swag bag, and it's got this little button on it. You push it up, and it's just a brush. It looks like a makeup brush, but it's meant to like brush off your keyboard and, you know, things, or the Rodecaster. So if you got a lot of dust on your stuff, what is this called? It just looks like a makeup brush to me, but
yeah, it's just a duster.
Yeah. From, in this case, domain.me. So, which is probably hilarious because this is probably from like 4 years ago and that probably doesn't exist anymore. But hey, it's 11/26. If you want to get in on the giveaway, again, we're at askthepodcastcoach.com/live, and you can put in hashtag ATPC and you'll be in the running to be featured on the podcast Rodeo show.
Will we announce that in the post show? Let's announce.
We will announce. Ooh, is that what we're going to do?
Let's announce the winner in the post show.
Oh, look at you. You're always thinking ahead there. That's excellent.
It's like I've done this before. I'm not sure.
Do you guys do giveaways at Gallup?
No, not very often. I did a bunch on Home Gadget Geeks for a while. Then the audience was like, stop. Like, we don't need more stuff. We don't need more stuff, you know? So.
We had a question. Let's see here. Are you an amazing interviewer? Can I pay you to help me develop content for my speaker business? We come up with a series of questions about 5 topics. We schedule a call and we have amazing conversations that I can use in my marketing material. Your choice to also use it in yours. Let me know if this is something you would be interested in. I appreciate the help. So this guy's trying to create a podcast to boost his speaker business is what it sounded like. And he's trying to be a better interviewer. And I guess for me, an interviewer, to me, all good podcasts start with who is my audience, and what do they need, and then bring on a guest that can help, you know, your audience, and then ask the questions that your audience would ask if they were sitting in your chair, I guess. And then the other thing, if you want people to hire you as a speaker, you do have to, again, promote your service. Throw in an ad for your speaking service or make a story about it. And yeah, I noticed I'm getting distracted by the chat room. I guess my video is off again.
Yeah, it's we get a little bit of that kung fu from, not all the time, but you know, something's processing hard on your computer. It looks like to me. We're just not in perfect sync.
Yeah, what's really weird is I'm using the Elgato face cam, and that's driving me nuts now because now I see myself. I'm going to sound drunk because I keep pausing.
Yeah,
and
don't look at yourself.
Yeah, don't.
Just cover it like this. So
yeah,
just talk
so
like
I was
this.
talking about her. Yeah.
So, Craig Ferguson used to do that all the time on his show, and he, you know, because he would say something and they would put something else in there.
Right.
Because what he was saying was filthy. So he would cover his mouth.
And I don't know. I updated the firmware of it last week. I know when I used the Elgato face cam in OBS, it looks horrendous, like really, really bad. And I actually rebooted my computer last night. So it's not a case where I need to reboot. So
I'd bring up a task manager and see what your CPU is doing during this time, just to see if it.
Yeah, because the only thing I have running besides all the typical stuff that start up, so Google Chrome is shocking, very high, and that's because they have like 8 million versions of it going. Yeah. That's hilarious. 15 versions of, or whatever you would call it, instances of Google Chrome, and I have one tab.
Yeah. Well, Chromium is a hog. It just
Yeah.
is. We used to, when Microsoft would do this, we'd make fun of it, but somehow when Google does it, it's okay.
Right.
So just what's your, I see on the screen there, what's your CPU percentage? Click on the performance tab. It's the second one over. And yeah, click on that one. And let's look, what's the percentage? Hard to see on my screen.
CPU is 45% memory.
Yeah, so you're looking okay there. Well, okay. We'll have to troubleshoot this a little bit later.
Yeah.
With it. I think we have successfly stalled. I've got a thought on this interview idea. Let's cover that in the post show.
Yeah, in the post show, but which will be starting in just a few minutes. But as we start to wrap up, Jim, what's going on at the AverageGuy.tv?
Yeah, Aaron Lawrence is back. We kind of talked about the new Pixel 6 and the Pixel 6 Pro. We spend a good chunk of time just kind of going through it, talking about the features and stuff. So if you've been thinking about picking up the new Pixel 6, I'll publish it a little bit later today over at homegadgetgeeks.com.
And on the School of Podcasting, I've been begging people to share this with me for a month now. I'm glad to finally get it, which is how long does it take you to go from an idea to an actual finished episode? Because I've said in the past, the best I've ever done is a 4-to-1 ratio. And people heard that as 4-to-1. And they're missing the best I've ever done. And so as I started tracking my own stuff and other people have sent in, it's much higher than 4-to-1 on a normal, regular basis. And if you're doing video, it's a lot more. Yeah, it's at least 10-to-1. So that'll be coming out on Monday's School of Podcasting. We want to say thanks to all of our awesome supporters. Again, you can be an awesome supporter over at askthepodcastcoach.com/awesome. And thanks to Mark at podcastbranding.co, James at dogpodcastnetwork.com, and Dan at why can I never remember the name of the show? Hold on, I got it. It's based on a true story podcast.com. I always have a brain fart when I get to Dan.
It's a long one. No worries.
Yeah. So stick around for some post show. We're going to talk about some SEO for show notes, and we'll do the giveaway and something else that you just mentioned. Interviewing. Yes. So stick around, and doggone it, I thought it was down to 11 seconds. I have to kill 10 seconds here.
Just dance.
So we'll just dance. Oh. That's it. Oh, and maybe not. You got a bad back.